very honored to introduce our guest today. Lauren Edwards is a Senior Program Manager with Local Matters. Lauren is a longtime advocate for healthful food education, and she has a master's degree in city and regional planning from The Ohio State University. For 10 years, Lauren also supervised volunteers for Advocates for Kids. When she joined Local Matters, it was really out of her passion to educate individuals and families that healthful food can be quick, easy, affordable, and delicious, and also to create vibrant, resilient communities. Local Matters is a nonprofit organization that works to educate children and adults about what healthful food is, where it comes from, how to grow it, and how to cook it. In Lauren's role as a senior program manager, she is directly responsible for the success of their programs. These include Food Matters, Growing Matters, Cooking Matters, and Wellness Matters, and she's going to tell you about all of that. Please welcome Lauren Edwards.
Thank you, Dan. All right, hold on. Let's see. Okay, can everybody hear me? All right, great. Well, first I want to extend my sincere thanks for everyone to have me here today. Thank you to Dana and to everybody else. And I'm very excited to be here to tell you all about all of the great things that Dana just mentioned. So I am, as she said, with an organization here in Columbus called Local Matters. How many of you guys, by a show of hands, have ever heard the name Local Matters? Have you guys seen our green bumper stickers? They're circles. How many of you guys have seen bumper stickers that are circles? Yeah. Nobody ever knows what we do, but they've heard our names. So as Dana mentioned, we are a nonprofit here in Columbus. We work to educate people about healthful food. We were founded about 6.5 or 7 years ago out of a need that our founders saw to educate folks and to really connect the dots. There were a lot of people here in Columbus doing work around food and trying to get people more access to healthful food, trying to lower the prices of food so more people could afford it. But we realized that there was this gap. There was this gap in education. The current generation of children is the first generation in recorded history to have a shorter expected lifespan than their parents. So we needed to do something about that. And our founder is an executive chef, or was a chef, before he founded Local Matters. And he said, not my kids. My kids are going to grow up healthy and strong and live way longer than I ever do. And so our first program that we created was called Food Matters. We're working to fill this gap. Everybody eats. Everybody wants to, well, most people want to eat well. They recognize that there's a connection between what they put in their bodies and their health, and they want to eat well. That's something, that education about that and how to do that in an affordable way is really missing. We focus a lot of our programming on individuals and families who are at risk of hunger. So we work with a lot of partner organizations out in the Columbus community to find these individuals, all the way from pre-K kids up through adults and retirees. And we run these 4 core programs to educate them. So I'll quickly go through our 4 programs. There's not a ton of necessary differences between them, as you guys will learn. So our Food Matters program is the first program that we founded. That program is run with primarily pre-K through 2nd graders, but can teach any age children. We work with a lot of Head Start sites, after-school programs, After School All-Stars. It's a program through the Mayor's Office, Capital Kids, a bunch of different partners to teach these children all the things that Dana mentioned, where food comes from, how to grow it, how to cook it, and how to access it affordably. So that's a common theme across all of our programs. So we're working with kids as young as 2.5 or 3. They're learning to cut up tomatoes. They're learning to make salsa. They're making sushi and loving it. So these kids are learning at a very young age how to talk about food and how to then go home and hopefully ask their parents for it. And we found that that's happening. So the parents are getting these questions. They're going back to the schools and saying, okay, my kid's coming home and asking me about kale. I don't know anything about kale. What do I do with it? And so we were able to create a program, or find a program that's an adult education program called Cooking Matters. The Cooking Matters program is the only program we run that's also nationally run by an organization called Share Our Strength. So this program's been around for about 22 years. It's run in 37 states with partners like us, and it's a 6-week hands-on cooking and nutrition program for adults and families who are at risk of hunger. Every week they cook a meal in class. They're being taught by professional chefs and nutritionists. They cook a meal in class, they do hands-on nutrition activities. They also get to take home the groceries to practice making those meals at home. So they can practice making the meal at home, come back and ask more questions. One of the weeks of that class is a grocery store tour. So we take people to the store and actually hands-on show them, okay, of all these breads, which is the best choice for your family? We're never anywhere ever, and this is a common misconception, to tell anybody to never go to Wendy's again. I love a junior bacon cheeseburger, and I go there often, not super often, but I do partake in fast food. We are just there to teach people what their choices are and to help people understand that there are choices that they can make on a tight budget and still be able to feed their families really well. So that's the Cooking Matters program. We then have a growing program called Growing Matters. And we are able to go out, we can consult on gardens that already exist, help them turn them into food production gardens if they've been flowers or other plants or weed gardens. We can turn them into food gardens. We can help people with workshops where we demystify gardening. We recognize that a lot of people want to try to grow food in containers or in their yards, but they aren't sure where to start. And so we have a series of 4 workshops that will teach people all the way from starting seeds and planting a garden, all the way to season extension and canning and preserving your foods. So it takes the gardening process and makes it really simple. Then our last program, which is our newest program, is called Wellness Matters. While we were running all of these other programs with individuals and families that were at risk of hunger, we were being asked often by folks to come to a corporate headquarters. Come somewhere, come teach us, come teach you guys how to do the same thing. Everybody wants to know this. And so we had kind of a really nice light bulb moment where we were able to pull together some things that we were already doing and create a program so that we can educate anybody who wants our education. And so the Wellness Matters program is designed to be a fee-for-service program that increases our reach so that we can reach anybody who wants it, but also then turns around and directly funds the programs that are being run in areas at risk of hunger. So there are folks out there that are doing some healthful food education in corporate venues, lunch and learns, cooking demonstrations. We can do hands-on cooking classes and something called a cook-off challenge, which it sounded like you guys are competitive. So that's a fun thing to do. Put people against each other to make a delicious dish. But we were able to create that, and through creating that program, we were able to receive a grant from the Columbus Foundation's Fund for Financial Innovation because, excuse me, wow, sorry. Because that program was financially innovative in the fact that it was going to try to allow a nonprofit to earn some money to support ourselves rather than constantly having to go out and ask for donations and grants and funding from other sources. So we were able to get the largest grant that the FFI has given to date to start that program and brand and launch it. So we started it last year. We've had some really great success. I just noticed on your agenda today, we have held courses with both Elford and Momentive Specialty Chemicals, both of which were mentioned as folks that are here. So I would assume that we've done some stuff with other folks in the room. So those are our 4 core programs. I'll stop for a second and ask if you guys have any questions. I have an activity for us to do, but first I'll ask. Any questions about that stuff? Sir?
I'd like you to talk about how to get food to the urban groceries, especially that don't have refrigeration.
Okay.
That's a fabulous program.
Yeah, thank you. So this gentleman has some crib notes hidden somewhere in his pockets. He's absolutely right. While we do run our 4 core programs, and as the senior program manager, that is my primary focus of our organization, we also do a lot of community outreach work. We are involved right now with the City of Columbus, the Columbus Public Health Department, and several others working on several different food action plans. And so you may or may not have heard of community plans in general, but basically, we are going to be able to work within communities to create overlays to make recommendations specific to food in these different neighborhoods that are at risk of hunger. And so we're working with the communities. And one of the things that came out of that process a few years ago was the need for corner stores or corner markets to carry healthier options. A lot of these folks don't have refrigeration, they don't have that stuff, they just have shelves and they put what they think the community wants on the shelves. They tend to be fairly pricey because they're not really a full service grocery store, but for some individuals, that is their only option as far as getting and reaching any kind of food for their family on a regular basis. They can't make it to a Kroger, they can't make it out to a bigger grocery store. So we have worked with the United Way of Central Ohio and several other community partners to help create a program called Fresh Foods Here. And Fresh Foods Here is a program that's designed, and it's primarily run out of the United Way, to help those smaller corner stores get funding and get support to be able to offer fresh and healthful options within their stores. We're pretty excited that this summer will be the first year where we're actually going to offer our grocery store tours, the Cooking Matters at the Store tours that I mentioned earlier, in the corner stores to really help people figure out how to make the best choices in those stores. Thank you for the question. Any other questions? All right, so I had a request before I got started. Somebody told me that they wanted to learn more about healthful eating themselves, and so I said, okay, we can do an activity. I don't have a thing because I didn't think of it ahead of time, but I think we can remember. So the first thing that I want you guys to do is I'm going to say that there are 3 different forms of produce at the grocery store, right? So there's fresh produce that you get in the produce section, there's frozen produce that you get in the freezer aisle, and there's canned produce, right? So fresh, frozen, and canned. Those are your three options. Now, by a raise of hands, how many of you guys think that canned produce has the most nutrients of those 3 options? I've got one. I've got suspenders over here. He's in. All right. Good job, kiddo. All right. What about frozen? How many of you guys think that frozen produce has? All right, I've got a few more. Got 10-ish folks with their hands up. All right. What about fresh? Everybody else. Who didn't vote? Got a couple non-voters. They're not sure. They want to wait and see. In many cases, most cases actually, frozen and canned produce is actually going to have more nutrients in it. Good job, kiddo. He's raising his hands. Good job. Okay. So in many cases, most of the cases, frozen and canned are going to have more nutrients than fresh. Can anybody tell me why? Additives inside the cans that protect the vitamins? That could be right, yeah?
Because the frozen and the canned are picked when they're fresh, and then immediately frozen, the fresh are picked before they're fresh and then shipped.
Bingo. So I'll repeat what was just said in case you guys couldn't hear it. So the frozen and the canned are allowed to stay on their plants for a long time. They're allowed to stay on their plants until they are ripe. Nobody wants to pay to pick something that's ripe and then store it for a while and then can it. Doesn't make any sense, right? We're all business people in here. That doesn't make any sense at all. You're going to spend all kinds of money. So instead, they leave the plant, the vegetable or the fruit on its plant and until it's ripe, and then it's picked at what it's called the peak of freshness. So the peak of freshness picked and then instantly canned or frozen. Now, how many of you guys buy green bananas at the store? Or at least partially green, right? You take them home, then they get ripe. So what color were they when they were picked? Like bright lime neon green, right? So those bananas did not have very much of a chance to get nutrients from the gorgeous sun that we see outside today. And the sun is what gives us all nutrients. And so the sun gives the nutrients to the plant. We eat the plant, we get the nutrients. But if the bananas, which we're using as an example, were picked early, they weren't given as much of an opportunity to get all of those nutrients. And so when you're choosing to eat fresh produce that has been picked when it was not ripe, you're making a choice where you are choosing that it already didn't have very many nutrients and then it was transported. I know we don't grow bananas here, so that's a hard example, but then it was transported and it's been losing nutrients ever since it's been picked from the plant. So the only way, what do you guys think? Is there a way to buy fresh produce that has equal or more nutrients? Farmers markets. I hear local. I mean, we are Local Matters, right? But so buying from a farmer's market is absolutely correct, or growing it yourself. And so that's what we're working to teach folks, is that, we've got a lot of people who say, yuck, I hate vegetables. That's fine, I don't care. Eat one vegetable, but eat a good one. Pick one that makes a lot of sense to you and that has nutrients for your body. We also teach folks a bunch of other really quick and easy things. So I'm gonna go through, and because now that we know what we know, we're gonna do an imaginary pro-con chart. So imagine my pro-con chart right here. We've got pros and cons for fresh, frozen, and canned. So let's do pros for fresh produce. What are the pros for purchasing fresh? Tastier. What else? No preservatives, that was right out there too. No sugar and salt. Other pros? You can support small business, buy local.
You didn't have huge transports.
There's not a lot of transportation involved most of the time.
Less or no packaging.
Less or no packaging, that's correct. All right, what are some cons of fresh produce? Spoilage. I heard spoilage and rotting, both. Yeah, can definitely rot.
They can also drive up the prices because they say, "Ooh, look, it's fresh."
This kid's got like a marketing future over here. You are absolutely right. Fresh is the tagline right now, right? Like Wendy's. Apparently I'm on a Wendy's kick today. Wendy's has, fresh lettuce on their burgers. Okay. Yeah, cons?
Somebody sneezed on them.
Somebody could, yes. Somebody could have sneezed on them. But in all seriousness, most of this listeria and these kinds of outbreaks come from fresh food. So it is mishandling of the fresh food is definitely something you need to worry about. All right, let's do pros and cons of frozen. Pros for frozen produce.
You can keep it in a freezer for a longer time than you can with fresh food.
You can keep it in a freezer. That's absolutely true. You could also freeze your fresh food, though, if you really wanted to. But freezing is a good storage method.
Convenience.
It's convenient. In a lot of cases, it's already pre-cut up for you, so you don't have to do anything, right? Others?
You can control portions.
You can control portions, right? So you're not going to have the same wastage as you might with fresh food.
You lose flavor.
Where we go? I'm getting to the cons. All right, so cons for frozen. You might lose flavor, wherever that came from over here. Losing flavor is definitely an option. Now, I will say I normally get one tastier in both fresh and frozen. Somebody out there just doesn't want to say it, but they like the taste of frozen food better, frozen vegetables.
You can get frostbite from it if you hold it so long.
There can be frostbite if you store it in the freezer for too long. What other cons?
You can get frostbite.
Do you have one? See. Oh, and, well, we can do a pro and a con. We were moved quickly to the cons.
You can get vegetables you can't get locally.
That's true. You could get vegetables that you can't get locally that were, so maybe a wider variety.
Don't learn how a vegetable really looks like.
But yeah, it's a con because kids may not learn what a vegetable actually looks like or where it comes from. I saw a hand back there somewhere.
Oh, I was just going to say a con. Somebody might have sneezed on it.
We'll keep that. Yes, cons. We've got sneezing in all three categories over here.
Greatest energy consumption.
The frozen. Yep, big energy consumption. Absolutely right. Flash frozen. Oh, yes? It's got packaging, right? So it's been packaged in some sort of plastic bag, and who knows what plastic is doing to all of us.
One prolonged power failure, and you've got either garbage or time to make a large soup.
Yes, so a power failure, and you're in trouble. You lose all of your frozen food. What about if you don't have a freezer? You guys have freezers. A lot of our folks don't. So they can't buy frozen. It's not an option. All right, let's go to canned. Nobody ever says they like canned taste. It's just never on there. But so pros for canned.
Actually, it has probably the most nutrients in it. A lot of them, they are the most delicious thing in the world.
See, that kid likes the taste of canned vegetables. All right, we've got taste. Shelf life. They last, a million years. Storage, what? I'm sorry? Storage cost. Yeah, zero. Zero storage cost, right? You need a shelf or a somewhere, I don't know, wherever, put it.
The canning process often destroys the flavor and the texture.
The can as a con, so we'll do pros and cons together for this one. So the con can be that the flavor is not as good, or that, you know, the texture is definitely not as good. So depending on what you're using it for, you know, probably may not be the best choice. Yes, so for each of the frozen and canned categories, there's something that you guys need to look for. For both of them, you want to look for added salt. Basically, all you need to do is look on the ingredients list on the back of the package. The only thing in the frozen ones should be that thing that you're buying. So if you're buying frozen corn, the only thing on the list should be corn. Not water, not salt, not sugar, nothing else, corn. On canned, often it's going to be water and that thing, because that's what it's canned in. So water and corn, but also same thing, no salt, nothing else. Buy the no salt added items, but if you have cans of food at home that are not no salt added, if you rinse and drain them several times, you get rid of all the salt and you are just as good as if you had bought the others. Any more pros and cons for canned?
What is it when it says it's in its own juices? Is that a pro or a con?
That is a great question. So what do you guys think? I'll throw that out to you. The question was, what does it mean, or, you know, is it a pro or a con if something is canned in its own juices? You've said lots of things. Let's give somebody else a chance really quick. Pro or con? Pro. Why?
Getting more flavor to it, you're getting the product in there, the nutrients, everything in it.
Everything's in there. It's absolutely true. And the alternate option, as far as fruits go, which are typically the ones canned in their own juices, is in heavy syrup. Syrup, that's just straight up like corn syrup in a jar. So you're right, juices. Juice is the way to go. All the ones that are labeled light, and I know I do the majority of my shopping at Kroger, and so they have it all fancy and color-coded for you. So all the light ones are blue, and all the regular ones are green, the cans. So you can buy the blue cans, and they're all in juice. They aren't light because they've got some weird like sugar fake something in it. They're light because they're in their own juice instead of in a syrup. So looking for the blue ones. That's what I do at Kroger. Other pros and cons?
The cans.
What, con or pro? Is a con. The cans can be a con. There is a regulation that requires them to be safe on the inside, which I know for most of you guys you'll remember that they were not safe on the inside. Not all of the companies have to be there yet, so we're almost there. But so still being a little bit careful with the cans. Yes.
They take less time.
The canned veggies, she said, takes less time. Absolutely right. A lot of them don't take any time to cook. I mean, you can eat canned corn straight out of the can. I mean, that's fine. Yeah. You need a can opener. That kid can come work for Local Matters because that is absolutely right. Similar to the freezer question, a lot of our participants don't have a can opener. So can they buy canned produce? Probably not, unless it's got a pop top. So we have to be really careful when we're talking about our different options.
One category you haven't mentioned is dried foods.
That is true. Dried foods. That's absolutely true. We can definitely buy dried foods. It's similar to frozen and canned, where they would have been picked and processed close to their peak of freshness. In most cases, they're not going to be processed at the same place as they're grown, so they are going to need to be transported a bit. But then when they're dried, it's basically taking out the water. I mean, literally. So it's okay to have dried fruit. I actually feed that to my children a lot for a snack. You can do it at home if you have an oven. All right, I'm going to be done with fresh, frozen, and canned. My imaginary pro-con chart is done. So we do that activity a lot in our courses. We like to open people's eyes to the idea that they don't have to go into that produce section and look for the 100% certified organic tomato, and that's their only option at $5 a pound. That they have other choices, and that canned tomatoes can be just as good for them, if not better, in many, many cases. And so we're out there to teach people those tricks. We try to use really easy phrases. So I'm going to teach you guys one before I go. I've got a couple more minutes in a minute. So I'll teach you guys an easy phrase that'll hopefully help you when you go to the grocery store later today or later this week. But so we're out there to teach folks that they have a lot of choices, they have options. We can teach this to anybody from little kids all the way up through adults, and anybody from any background in any cultural area of town. So I want you guys to repeat after me when I teach you this phrase. So the phrase is, eat the rainbow. Eat the rainbow. Now, can anybody guess what that means? And it has nothing to do with Skittles, whoever is going to say that.
Things with different colors, because different colors mean different vitamins.
He's exactly right. So he said, eat things that are different colors because different colors have different vitamins and nutrients. So it really is that simple. So if you're looking at your cart at the grocery store or looking at your meal plan for a day or a week, what I do, I have several small children, and I look at their plan for the day, and I make sure that they have red, orange, yellow, green, blue and purple, brown and white. And as long as they have all 6 of those categories in there, I feel confident that they are getting the nutrients that they need. So when you look at your cart at the grocery store, if your cart doesn't have any yellow stuff in it, go find some. Put it in there. Now you've got all the colors you need. And make your cart, think of your cart as what you're going, it is what you're going to be eating. And so when you're thinking about making sure you're making healthy choices, people who complain to me all the time about their kids only eating chicken nuggets and Oreos, I'm saying, are those things going in their grocery cart or yours? You're putting them in the grocery cart, so you're making that decision and you're making that purchase.
What's the benefit of organic?
All right, so that's a great question, and since I don't have a lot of time, I'm not going to throw it back to you guys, so I'll just answer it. So there's a difference between local and not local, and then there's a difference between organic and not organic. So organic product has been grown in a way where they are not using many chemicals. It's not no chemicals, because there's a very short list that organic or certified organic allows, but they are grown using a lot less chemicals. And so the idea is still, as far as the nutrients go, it's still the same. So we don't grow avocados here either. So you can't get an Ohio avocado. So your avocados are going to be the same as far as nutrients go, whether you're buying a Mexico regular avocado or a Mexico organic avocado. However, the question is not about the nutrients. The question is about the chemicals. And so when making a choice to choose organic food, you're choosing that because you don't want to ingest the chemicals that have been used in the growing process, in the spraying process, in the processing process, in the transportation process. So recently, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, there was a study that came out that debunked the myth that organic was healthier. I'm like, well, I never said organic was healthier. We said organic has the same nutrients in most cases, but that it doesn't have any chemicals. So if that's a choice that you can afford and want to make for your family, go right ahead. Yeah.
Can you speak about GMOs?
I knew that was going to come up. All right, so the question was about GMOs, which stands for genetically modified organisms. So the short answer is that food has been GMO'd for all of history. That's what farmers do. They breed foods together to create other foods, or to create a disease-resistant crop, or to create something like that. And so the general concept and idea behind GMOs is a fairly strong one, and is one that's backed in history. The way that it's being done may not be, because a lot of the research started to help feed people in other parts of the world where there's a massive drought and they rely on rice. So we need to figure out a drought-resistant rice. And so that's where this started. And we think that's all a very good, serve others kind of method, and that's what you want to do. However, a lot of the chemical companies and the fertilizer companies got a hold of these processes and started making, Roundup-resistant corn. And that's not the point. And so I think you can't make a really blanket statement about GMOs being good or bad, because I think the concept is good and what they were originally intended for, and what is still happening in many, many places, universities and different places like that, is great. And so that should continue. But the conversation is more with these bigger organizations that are trying to make it so that their corn is the only corn that can grow in a particular spot. I'm officially out of time. I will be sticking around down here, so come see me. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Come and join us next week to hear Dr. Peter Mansour speak about the ISIS threat. This meeting is adjourned.